So you have two awesome Android phones, but at the end of the day, only one can take home the gold. What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I'm here with two of the highest-end, awesome, and I feel like I say that all the time, but two of the highest-end Android devices on the market right now. I have the Samsung Epic 4G Touch, full name, Galaxy S2, Epic 4G Touch. Then I have the Motorola DROID BIONIC over here. High-end on Sprint, high-end on Verizon, both 4G devices with dual-core processors, big displays, 8-megapixel cameras, and more. But this is a dogfight, so only one can take home the gold. Which one will it be? Well, you're just going to have to find out. But first, special thanks to my friends at Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with not one, not two, but a bunch of smartphones for use in our one-paw bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to get either of these devices, you're going to walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, and more. So when you walk out, you're good to go, everything's set up, and you can start using that phone to its fullest potential. Which one's the best? Is it the Epic 4G Touch or the DROID BIONIC with Verizon's 4G LTE? Let's go find out. You know, I feel like I say this all the time, but here are two awesome, really high-end Android handsets that have a ton to offer depending on which one you prefer. Here's the Epic 4G Touch, also known by its full name as the Samsung Galaxy S2, Epic 4G Touch. It's available now at Sprint for $199.99, so it's in a pretty good price range. It comes up with the Photon and the Evo 3D, and it's a super high-end device with a lot of features. It has a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz Exynos processor, so it's running that same processor that you love from the Galaxy S2, the international version that is, and this is a Galaxy S2 device itself. You can see back here with the Sprint logo as well. So very thin device, if I remember right, 9.6 millimeters thick, but with a bigger display. So they added some things over the original. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can get a better look at that. They added some things to the original device. They added a bigger display. It's a 4.52-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, as opposed to a 4.3, which is what came on the international version. And there's some design differences as well. You'll notice the capacitive buttons down here instead of the physical button that the international one had. But otherwise, you know, pretty similar. A little bit larger battery as well, 1,800 milliamp hour battery, which I'll cover a little bit more in part 2. But I will say it's nice to have the bigger battery because even though it is a bigger display, it doesn't consume, at least based on my testing, it doesn't consume as much power as you would think it would. So with moderate use, I've been able to make it through a day. But more on that in part 2. Like I said, 4.52-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, 8-megapixel camera on the back, a little bit of a different design here with the camera, and it's capable of shooting video at 1080p. Now this is running Android 2.3.4, and it's running the latest version of Samsung's TouchWiz user interface as well, version 4.0. So you're going to see some changes. You know, it looks somewhat similar to what we've seen on 3.0 on devices like the DROID Charge, but you'll see some differences as well. For example, the dock is a little bit different down here. You don't get kind of the dock look anymore. The wallpaper covers behind the or covers up behind the apps, the icons, if you will. So we can see what comes out of the box, and then you get All Share, Google Books, typical Android stuff, downloads, which is something that comes with Android 2.3. You get Keys or Kai's Air, I've heard it pronounced both ways, which is Samsung's auto update tool, and allows you to stream files from Wi-Fi to your PC, from your phone to your PC. Then you have Polaris Office, you have Samsung's Social Hub, and then you have Media Hub as well, so you can download or rent movies, rent TV shows, things like that. And then you have Nova 2 HD. You have all the Sprint stuff, Sprint Hotspot, Sprint ID, Sprint Mobile Wallet, Sprint Music Plus. And then over here you have Sprint Radio, TV, and Movies, Sprint Zone. Then you have, let's see, Visual Voicemail as well. So, you know, nice scrolling operation here. And you'll notice that, you know, unlike typical Android, it does scroll from left to right instead of up and down. It kind of has, and I hate to say this because I know Samsung's kind of involved in a legal battle with Apple, but it has kind of an iOS look and feel to it. So I think these people that are coming from the iPhone that are like, I'm ready for a change. Where the heck is the iPhone 5? I'm kind of ready to go to something else. They'll find a lot to like in this because at least the menu interface is very similar to iOS. So you can see, and another very cool thing in my opinion, go in here to applications. And of course you can sideload applications, but let's go down here to something like Sprint Music Plus, and let's say I don't want it. I can uninstall it. Sprint's listened to their customers, and they realize that, you know, not everybody wants the Sprint pre-installed stuff that comes free anyway, for the most part, with the everything data plans and you know, the unlimited data plans. So you can uninstall those if you don't like that, and that's pretty cool. So you have the power button over here, volume rocker over on the left side, and then your micro USB charging port down there at the bottom. Then you have the DROID BIONIC over here, Verizon's current flagship 4G LTE device. It's running a dual-core 1 gigahertz TI OMAP processor, so it's running the same processor that's in the DROID 3. You just don't have the keyboard. And this thing looks, it's funny, you know, I've watched the evolution of this from CES all the way to now. So 9 months later, this device launched, kind of like a baby. If you think about it, you know, 9 months later, DROID X2, the DROID 3 got together, they had a baby, and this is what came out, because it looks very much like both of those devices. You'll notice the front looks very similar now, especially from what it looked like at CES. It looks very similar to the DROID 3, but then when you flip it over here on the back, you can see it has that telltale camera hump. It's not nearly as pronounced as what you've seen on the DROID X2, but still you have that hump there as well. 4G LTE, you can see on the back with the logo. 8-megapixel camera, also shoots video at 1080p, and then you have a volume rocker over here on the left side. You have your HDMI port and your micro USB charging port. I think I said, okay, yeah, left side over here, right side volume rocker. I think I said left side earlier. 3.5mm headphone jack, power button, and then in the back you have a 1,735 milliamp hour battery. So it's actually the biggest battery that comes on a Verizon 4G LTE device. Now that said, 4G is just a power suck. No matter how you look at it, 4G consumes the battery pretty quickly, and it's a dual-core processor, so you're going to experience some battery drain here. Though I will say, and again, cover batteries in part 2, but I will say the battery life's been pretty decent for a 4G LTE device. Keeping all that into consideration, or taking it into consideration rather, I've been pretty impressed with the battery life. It's nothing near what you're going to get with like a BlackBerry or even an iPhone 4. But for an Android device, and particularly for an Android device, a 4G LTE to Android device, it's been pretty impressive. But you can see the device itself is pretty snappy with little to no lag at all. And then you can see the menu interface here. It's running Android 2.3.4 as well, and it's running the latest build of Motorola's custom user interface, the applications platform. You can see I've installed some stuff just to test it out, but out of the box you get Amazon Kindle, Blockbuster, you get Google Books as well, device setup, then some Motorola stuff. And you'll notice that the widgets, or the, not widgets, I'm sorry, the icons have been changed ever so slightly, just like they have on TouchWiz. They look a little bit different than the stock Android icons. You can see browser here, for example, looks different. Just kind of some Motorola looking icons. Files looks a little bit different. You have GoToMeeting on this. You have guided tours, IM, customized messaging folder, My Accounts, which is a Motorola thing, My Verizon Mobile. And then you have over here social location, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that in a bit. Then the VCast stuff, VCast Media Manager, VCast Music, VCast Tones, Videos, Video Surf. Now the downside of this stuff is, let's say you want to get rid of VCast Tones. Well, I can't get rid of it. It's bloatware, and it's installed permanently on the device. Unless you root the device or I do some sort of customization to it, you can't remove the Verizon stuff. So there you can see I'm in the Verizon folder right now, and you can see all the stuff that comes pre-installed. Now they've really made some improvements, though, to Motorola's custom user interface. You can see some changes here, much different, much better in my opinion than what we saw with Motorola Blur. And even some of the older versions of the application platform, like you remember the first one maybe that came with the DROID X, a little bit of a different dock. They've just made some improvements across the board. You can see what the various notification bars look like, just to give you a comparison here. Up here you have some shortcuts to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, sound. You can either turn the sound on or off, and 4G as well. And then kind of the black and gray typical Android 2.3 color scheme over here. Now with the Motorola one, you have a blue color scheme, and this is new to Motorola's custom user interface. Kind of a blue hue all throughout. And again, just like TouchWiz, this one scrolls from side to side as well, though you'll notice when I scroll, it kind of gives this 3D carousel effect. So, and you can see when I zoom out and we look at all the screens, 5 home screens on this one, 7 home screens over here on this one, and with a nice little home screen fade out transition effect there. Then over here you have the carousel effect, so kind of similar to HTC Sense 3.0, using it as a reference point. Very similar in the way that things scroll. You can see it scrolls with that carousel look and feel. Now talking a little bit about widgets, TouchWiz 4.0 over here, Motorola's applications platform over here, and this used to be a pro just to Motorola. I'm going to delete that so you can see. But Motorola has been, or has gotten, I shouldn't say that, Samsung is taking on some of the stuff as well. So we'll go over here, for example, and we'll add, you can see widget shortcuts, and you can see how it looks different from, for example, when I pop this up, it's going to bring up the typical Android add to home screen menu. So a little bit different here. I happen to like this. It's kind of subtle. You can still see your home screens and scroll between your home screens. So they've really made some huge improvements, and if you didn't like TouchWiz 3.0, I'd really suggest you take a lock at it again, because the changes are pretty noticeable. So take a look at those when you get a chance. But widgets, and we'll go in here, for example, to AccuWeather, and we'll just go ahead and add the AccuWeather widget and then Charlotte pops up, and then we'll add one over here as well. We'll actually add the same. We'll do a weather widget, Motorola's weather widget. And then we'll add that, and we'll hit done. Now, both of these now, especially in TouchWiz 4.0, you can customize the size of the widget. So in both Blur, I shouldn't say Blur, excuse me, Motorola's applications platform, I can bring this one out, and I can change the size if I want to make it look like that, for example. Now with this one, I can do the same thing. I press and hold, and you can see it gives me the ability to customize. So I can either make it like that, and it gives me a preview before I back out of it. I can make it like that if I want to, and then when I click out, it goes back to that size. So this is really beneficial when you're in one of those areas and you've used up a lot of space in your home screen. You're maybe down to something like this, and you have a little space down here, and you want to fill it up, but you have to have some sort of customized widget in order to fill it up. Well, Blur, or Motorola's user interface, and Samsung's TouchWiz 4.0 are going to be the best candidates for that, because you can customize the widgets to an extent. There are obviously some that can't be customized. For example, this one, well, I guess maybe you can. Let me see. Come on. Yeah, I guess you can. Take that back. Now it'll show you, for example, if you can't customize it a certain way, it'll show up red, like I can't make it that long, but I can do it just like that. So you can do some customizations to a lot of the different widgets to come as part of Motorola's applications platform and as part of Samsung's TouchWiz user interface. But overall, just the structure of this is so much better with wallpapers. We can go through and take a look at wallpapers, for example, and you can see just incredibly fast. That dual-core Exynos processor, super fast, and it's 1.2 gigahertz. Now this one's no slouch either. I haven't had any lag whatsoever with this, and it's pretty quick as well. Everything pops up incredibly fast. And then I go to wallpapers on this, for example, bring up the same stuff or similar stuff. You can see no lag whatsoever on that one either. So, you know, if you're somebody that hates lag, you want a super fast device, you're going to be happy with either one of these units. It just depends on which user interface you prefer the most, and perhaps which user interface or which OS you're coming from. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look at messaging, and I'm going to open that up with both here. And you'll see that if you remember my review of the international version, you'll see some minor changes to the way it looks on TouchWiz. For example, you can see when I go into settings, I have the option to change the size of the text itself. So I can go to message font size, change that to small, and then go back. But I don't have that option to change and customize the way it looks. So when I go in here, for example, we're going to email, or text message rather, Rick. We're going to text message Rick James, and we're going to say the quick brown fox. And usually it's pretty easy to type on. I don't care for Samsung's keypad, total personal preference, but if you don't like Samsung's keypad, it comes with swipe out of the box as well. So we'll try that. I'm not very good at it, but let's see. Brown, no, I messed that one up. Quick Boyer, actually I'm going to leave that. Boyer Fox is happy. So you can see I'm not very good at it. But anyway, 4.52 inch display, so it's super large and super long. So if you have big thumbs, it's easier to text in landscape mode. So a lot of screen real estate over here. And then you have this one, 4.3 inches over here. It's a QHD display, so you have Super AMOLED Plus over here, which is great. The blacks are incredibly black, and the colors are rich, and there's no pixelation, little to no pixelation on this. Now the downside here, this is a brighter display, and it's known to be a little bit better on the battery life front. Now the downside to it is it's very pixelated. I'm going to hold it up and see if you can get a good image of it up close, and bear with me while that camera zooms in, or focuses rather, and you can see how it looks. Just take a look at the signal strength indicator and the battery. You can see some pixelation there. So if that's something that frustrates you, take a look at it in store, because it is noticeable. You know, and it's something I can handle, but it may not be something you can handle. So something to keep in mind there. So we're going to do the quick brown fox. Is happy. You can tell I've been using a physical keyboard for a while, 'cause I'm a little rusty on the on-screen keyboards. But 4.3 inch display here. It's a long display also. So you, again, if you have big thumbs, you should be happy with this one as well. And it does come with swipe out of the box as well. Though I will say Motorola's custom multi-touch keyboard is one of my favorites on the market. Very fast. Autocorrect is fantastic. But again, swipe comes pre-installed on this one as well. Now just on the keyboard front, the DROID BIONIC is the winner. I don't care for Samsung's keypad. Maybe you do, but it doesn't tend to. I don't care for the autocorrect. I actually keep it turned off because I don't like the fact that it autocorrects in advance of what I'm saying. So little minor things like that, but you know, just strictly on the keyboard front, the BIONIC, but the actual screen real estate, the added few inches on this one, or a little bit extra that comes with a 4.52, is quite nice.